Okay. Should be streaming. I'm going to drop the link on Twitter or X. I don't know when I'm going to finally get used to that. Jeff, how funny was that guy in our mentions today that called you out for using a particular word and his mention is flooded with that word?
Flooded. Like I'm all about like if I'm used to it because I know people don't like. There are a lot of people who don't like it when I use that word, and that's fine. As I've always said, you associating somebody with autism or somebody with Down syndrome or somebody with a mental or physical inability is not my problem. That is not, when I say retarded, I have never thought of somebody like that. So for me, that's why it's never bothered me to use that word, because if you associate that word with them, that is your problem. That is not mine. And like, I get it. Like, I just stopped responding to people who called me out on it. But like that one, my nephew was the one who initially responded to it. And so I had to go in and check that dude's mentions, and sure, like that dude has said it just as much as I have. I was like, holy shit, dude, you got almost 2 minutes worth of screen record using that word. Like, stop it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, if you have your issue, like moral boundaries or whatever, using that word, if it means something particular to you, fine. I respect it. But you can't play both sides there. You can't attack Jeff for using it and then use it yourself. You got to stand on your morals. We respect both sides of it and
100%.
whatever it is.
You know, I've always told people, like, you know, friends, acquaintances, if you come to me and you say, hey, man, that word really bothers me, I will do whatever I can to make sure that I don't use that type of language in front of you. I have no problem doing that, but you got to come to me respectfully. You know what I mean? But yeah, don't come to me crying about something when you're doing it too.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, let's dive into today's show. Let's do a quick introduction. So this is a special edition of a Flight Path episode, technically Flight Path episode 9. It's May 14, 2025, and the schedule is going to be released very shortly if it hasn't been released already. Drop the live link on X, so hopefully we get a couple of live listeners to follow along with us as well. We'll talk about rest advantages, what we like or dislike about the schedule. And, you know, Jeff and I don't need 100 hours to prep for something like this. We're going to react right off the cuff. We're going to give you our honest take. So, and I'll give you, while Jeff's, you know, going off about some part of the schedule, I'll calculate our rest schedule off to the side. So Jeff needs no introduction. Go find him on X at jben_flightpath. You know, if you're going to go attack him for using certain words, or, you know, you're going to just poke fun at him, don't be upset when he claps back. No playing victim with him, right? If you can't take the heat, stay out of his mentions. Just that simple. Jeff, while all of this starts trickling out, let's dive into the international game that's already been confirmed. The Falcons are going to be in Germany, and we kind of discussed this on our last episode, on November 9th to take on the Colts. One of your main points there was it's going to be really cold in Germany at that time. So are you excited about it? Do you still feel like this isn't, you know, the most optimal thing to happen?
No, so actually, you know, I actually went back and looked, right? And I actually pulled the weather for the last 2 Novembers in Germany. High has been around 55, between 50 and 55. So it's actually not that bad. Olympic Stadium there in Berlin is absolutely beautiful. So you know, I'm not upset at that. I'll tell you what I am upset about is the schedule is you know, officially out now. What I do think is bullshit, because it's an 11-hour flight from Atlanta, right? It's 10 hours and 40 minutes from Atlanta to get to Germany, to get to Berlin. They don't have a bye week after that game. There is no bye week after that game for Atlanta. They played Panthers week 11. That is what I am upset about now. I think it's absolutely absurd that you don't get a bye week after international travel. I get it. They fly very differently than you and I would. Like, I understand all of that. You know, it's, you know, really, you know, a West Coast trip, you know, if you're going to Seattle, Washington from Atlanta, it's about a 5.5 hour trip. So, you know, it's an additional 5 hours. So it's not all that bad. But I'm pretty sure most teams get a bye week after they play internationally. unless they're staying there. Like, I know the last few years, I think Jacksonville has stayed and has played a couple games back to back in London. But even when I came back, I'm pretty sure they had gotten a bye week. So I think it's crazy that Atlanta's bye week comes in week 5. That is absolutely absurd. Though they do get it right before a Monday night game, which had been rumored, I think, to be at the end of the season, but it's actually week 6 against the Bills Monday Night Football. So I'm excited about that. When you go through and you look at the schedule, 1, 2, 3, let's see, 4, 5 primetime games right now, with week 18 of the Saints being to be determined. So you're potentially playing 6 primetime games this season if you're the Falcons. And I'll tell you what, that tells me that the NFL schedule makers know this team is fucking exciting, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, exactly. And let's get into the schedule, Jeff. So we did this last year. I remember you and I went back and forth on when we opened up with Pittsburgh, KC, Philly, whatever. Jeff was very optimistic. He predicted, I think, 5-0. So I want Jeff to kind of give the honest take. We're going to go 4 games at a time, okay? So we're going to start with the first block of games. I've already calculated the rest advantages and stuff like that. I mean, it's not that freaking difficult for 4 games. I'm going to do it 1 block at a time. So the first game on the schedule, and obviously no rest advantage here, Jeff, is our division rivals at home, Tampa Bay. Everyone's even there. No rest advantage. How do you feel about that game being our opener?
I love the fact that you have an NFC South game to open up the season. Right, I absolutely love that. It gives you a little bit more focus. And I know it probably sounds really weird talking about NFL guys having focus, but division games mean a little bit more. So guys are going to be a little bit more attentive. There's a little bit bigger of a bullseye there. You swept them last year, so you know Tampa's going to come in here. You're going to get their best shot. Everybody's, hopefully, knock on wood, will be healthy week 1. And that is one. I'm actually shocked that game's at 1 o'clock, to be honest with you. I am shocked that is not a primetime game, kind of given what it looks like the outlook for the Falcons should be according to the league. The 2 best quarterbacks in this division going head-to-head week 1. Sign me up for that. Falcons start 1-0. And by the way, let me take this back a second to last year being optimistic at 5-0. They were 3 plays away from being 5-0, people. Like that, it wasn't that far off that they damn near started 5-0 last year against the teams that they faced off in 2024. So yes, I may be a little bit too much on the syrup, but it is what it is. Grandma never had a problem with me drinking a little too much. But week 1 Tampa, sign me up 1-0, baby.
There we go. Okay, here's one. Now week 2, our first primetime game at Minnesota. We get the Penix JJ McCarthy duel. We talked about this being a potential primetime game last week because of the young quarterbacks. Jeff, what I like about this game, and here we go, rest advantage time, right? Now we're going to have these nerdy stats in there. The Minnesota Vikings play on Monday Night Football week 1. So, and they're on the road. We're going to have 1 day of rest advantage. And that might not seem like a lot, but to bettors, it means something. Also, one more thing to point out. So, if that team wins the week before, if Minnesota wins the week before, they're on the road against the Bears. The winners of road primetime games generally have this high. We went into our division's rival's house and we beat their ass. Now we're going home playing this Falcons team that doesn't even know how to keep the confidential numbers or whatever, and they text all these drops. They're going to underestimate. So, with that being said, I kind of like that, and I'll be rooting the Vikings to win week 1 so they slump in week 2.
Yeah, look, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix. Obviously, McCarthy won the first matchup, their final years in college. Penix outplayed him, though. It wasn't even close as far as who was a better quarterback. My question is going to be, what does this defense look like? And we'll obviously know a lot more about that week 1. What does this defense look like? And number 2, can it travel? Right? If you're going to win in the NFL, your defense has to travel. Again, I've said it many times. Maybe I'm too optimistic. I don't question this offense, right? I saw enough in weeks 16, 17, 18 last year from Michael Penix in this office. I feel really good coming into year 2 with those guys, especially since he's going to have an entire offseason with his wide receivers, not just 3 days before taking his first start. So I feel good about the offense. I want to know what this defense is going to look like. If this defense travels well, they'll put on quite the show on Sunday Night Football there in week 2. So I'm excited for that. If you're putting me on the spot right now, 2-0, baby.
Okay. Now, here's one that doesn't work for our advantage. The next week, we're traveling to Carolina coming off a primetime road game. If we win that, typically, that's us getting a primetime win, us celebrating and getting too ahead of ourselves, especially if we're 2-0, Jeff. Now we get the Panthers, who their fans think that Bryce Young is on the same level as Michael Penix, but could we perhaps be on a high after going 2-0 against the Bucs and the Vikings and overlook the Panthers in week 3?
Absolutely not, because of how last year ended, right? Yes, Jimmy Lake is gone. Brick is in, but these guys haven't forgotten about how last year ended, right? And even though you and I talked about last episode about how that loss to Carolina actually ended up being a really good thing for the Falcons team, because if you win that game, you draft 18th overall. You're not getting the draft picks that you got this year, so it ended up being a really good thing for the Falcons in that. But these guys haven't forgotten. These guys didn't forget that Bryce Young accounted for, 4 or 5 touchdowns in that game. And I mean, he came out and he looked like a damn all-pro in that game. For the first time in his entire career, he looked like an all-pro. And so, look, these guys haven't forgotten it. The defensive guys are still here, are going to still be embarrassed by what happened last year. So, the Carolina, I mean, if there's a red-headed stepchild of this division, it's Carolina. They really want the Falcons to be their rival. They really want the Bucs to be their rival. They really want the Saints to be their rival. None of the other 3 teams in that division give a damn about the Panthers. Like, they really are that redheaded stepchild. So look, I think 3-0 is how this is going to start. I'm excited for that. And no, Carolina will have the Falcons' attention from the jump because of what took place last year to end the season.
Agreed. So we'll see what goes down there. Now here's one that I'm kind of surprised wasn't in primetime, Jeff. The Commanders. We get them in a normal time slot, Sunday day game. No rest advantage here. This is just going to be a Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix rematch. I would have really liked to see this one in primetime. I'm kind of surprised we didn't get that.
I am as well. I'll be interested to see what the primetime game is, either that Monday night or that Sunday night, to see what that is. I mean, even a 4:25 kick would have been better than 1 o'clock. So I'll be interested to as we kind of get through the other schedules for the other teams to kind of see what was going on or who was playing that week. I really want to say 4-0, right? Like, I really want to. I don't, and we see this out of young quarterbacks, okay? We see year number 2, a lot of them fall off, and not completely off the map, but you look at CJ Stroud, did not have as good of a year number 2 as he did year number 1, right? Like, we see that guys will come in hot, and then all of a sudden now defensive coordinators have a full year's worth of film on them, and guys don't look like they did as rookies, right? And it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens more often than not. Does Jaden Daniels, has he been using this offseason to get better? Are the Commanders doing what they need to do to surround him or keep him with just the same type of talent? And what's Dan Quinn going to do as a head coach? Is he going to continue to develop as a head coach, or is he going to go, damn, we had a lot of success last year, we're good, right? Like, there's a lot of different factors there. If talent for talent, give me the Falcons. But if Jaden Daniels is the exception to that second year sophomore slump rule, that's going to be a really good fucking football team, and that will be an absolutely brutal game. As remember, last year, Jaden Daniels was the only player on that 17-week schedule for the Falcons last year that ran for over 100 yards. Saquon Barkley didn't run for 100 yards against the Falcons, but Jaden Daniels did. That dude is really, really talented, so don't misconstrue what I'm saying. But typically, quarterbacks in year 2 have take a step back before they take another step forward in years 3 or 4. If he takes a step backwards, Falcons win this game by 3 touchdowns. If they don't, this is going to be an overtime, last-second field goal type of game. And in games like that, I'm going to run with the Falcons at home. So for me, 4-0.
Okay. We're at 4-0. That Jeff's following suit of last year. I love it. I love the optimism.
But
Now we
4
get
0
in.
going into a bye week. But 4 0 going into the bye week.
Bingo.
There
Bingo.
you go.
And we'll call this the Jeff Ulbrich punishment, because I don't know why we have a week 5 bye week when we're the ones that have to go travel internationally. Doesn't make any sense, but whatever. We'll take it. We're a tough team. We'll be resilient. Now, here's the good part about the bye week, Jeff. Not only do we get rest, but the team we're playing, the Buffalo Bills, are going to be coming off Sunday night football. So, they're going to be on a shorter schedule, and we're going to be having that one extra day on top of the bye week to prepare. How do you think we're going to fare against Josh Allen?
Not well. Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, this to me is where you start 4-0. You probably end up 5-1 after week 6 here after that bye week. Josh Allen's elite, right? Like no matter, like, there are a lot of people want to make comparisons. A lot of people want to talk about him. He's a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the NFL, right? And when you have a quarterback like that and he's got talent around him, this is not a bad football team. This is a team that will be, as bets start to come out in Vegas and you kind of look at everything, they're a top 3 or 4 betting team to get to the Super Bowl, right? And there's a reason for that. And so unless they just completely shit the bed early, this is going to be a really good football team. This will be the first big test for what year 2 into Raheem Morris looks like. And not that failing this test is going to be a bad omen, but Buffalo has been building for a few years. This is not a new thing for them. And so they're coming in here. They're established. They have their locker room culture. They have their captain. They have their dudes, right? And you still look at the Falcons. This is still a transition year. I mean, you got rid of your captain and Grady Jarrett. He's gone. You got rid of some other. There's a lot of other questions. And again, I'm not saying that these questions and these issues aren't going to arise weeks 1 through 4, but now you're playing the upper echelon team of the NFL. And that's where if you still have issues going on, they will expose them. And so, even when you look at coaches, I would take this coaching staff over Tampa's. I would take them over Minnesota's. I would take them over Carolina's. I would take them over Washington. Buffalo has a better coaching staff. And people may not want to hear that. That may not be a friendly thing to say, but that is a better organization top to bottom. So for me, it's 4-1 after week 6.
Okay. I respect it. This kind of reminds me of the primetime game we had against the Chiefs, where we were really freaking close last year with Kirk. So what I want to see out of the Falcons in that game, like Jeff said, that is going to be our first true test. I want to see them put up a fight against Josh Allen, albeit we're probably not in the best position to win that yet, but it'll be an awesome test. So let's fast forward, Jeff. We got prime time back-to-back games. We're going to San Francisco now. Now we're traveling from Monday Night Football on a short week, and this is where rest advantage doesn't play in our favor, to playing Sunday Night Football. So not only do we have to travel on the West Coast, but we also have to, play on a shortened schedule. How do you feel about playing San Francisco on the road Sunday Night Football?
I mean, I'm shocked that San Francisco is even going to have a team with the type of turnover they had this year, right? I mean, you look at that roster, things were really good. Their Super Bowl window's closed, right? Like, they had that window while Brock Purdy was still on that rookie contract. Things were looking really good. Kyle Shanahan does what he does best, and that's blow things. And now they're kind of out of that window, right? Now you look at all the changes they've had to make, the guys they've had to get rid of. That window is now closed. This is a very different San Francisco team than it has been the last couple of years. And so for me, I like this game. I like a rebound, even though it is a short week. I like a rebound for the Falcons here. We talk all the reasons that you're going to lose to Buffalo in week 6 are all the reasons you're going to win in week 7. And so for that reason, give me the Falcons there to go 5-1.
Okay. Now after that, we're gonna be playing Miami at home, which isn't really a big deal, even though we'll be coming off a West Coast game, Sunday Night Football. Miami, obviously, not what they used to be. How do you feel about Miami Week 8? So right now we're at 4-2 with your schedule, I believe. How do you feel about Miami?
So we're at 5-1.
Sorry.
Not 4-2. 5-1.
Okay.
I mean, at some point, I don't like Miami. I'm not a Tua guy. I think if anybody around Tua gave a shit about him, he retired last year. Brain injuries are not a thing to play with, and he's just had far too many of them. I do love Mike McDaniels, though. Like of all the head coaches in the NFL, he might be my favorite. He's young. He's got all of the things that you want in somebody, right? So, but a home game, 1 o'clock. Mercedes-Benz, if people show up on time, which they don't here, it'll be rocking probably by the third quarter as people finally start to trickle in. Give me the Falcons there. Again, there's going to be some games here where they lose, I'm sure. But through 7 games, through 8 weeks, for me, the Falcons are 6-1 at this point.
Okay. All right.
And by the way, it's 6-1 through week 8. Falcons will probably be the talk of the NFL at that point.
Yeah, and I'm sure Rams fans are going to be pissed off that they don't have a top 5 pick anymore at that point.
And people like me will make sure that everybody on Twitter knows about it.
Okay, let's keep going. After Miami, we play at New England week 9. So this is going to be obviously a Super Bowl rematch, even though there's barely any leftovers on both sides. Maybe just Jake Matthews on our side. I can't really think about anybody else. But and you feature 2 young quarterbacks, Drake May and Michael Penix. How do you feel about us being 6-1 heading into Foxborough week 9?
So, obviously a lot of changes again for the Patriots, bringing in Mike Vrabel. You just talked about Drake May. Drake May, I still think, is going to be a really, really, really good quarterback in the NFL. And you went out there, you got him some help on the offensive line. What is it? They drafted Will Campbell, I think is his name, out of LSU. That kid, the more he talks, the more you're wowed by the guy, right? And his play speaks for itself. So, when you look at this, maybe again something people don't want to hear. The Falcons seem to have a hiccup when it comes to playing New England. I just don't see why that changes this year. This will be a game. I think this will be a game that the Falcons end up losing. They've played 15 times. Falcons are 6-9. And they have not beaten. The last time they beat the Patriots, you want to take a guess on when this was?
Probably before. I know Matt Ryan never did it, so probably in the 90s.
So they're currently on a 7-game losing streak to the Patriots. They have not beaten the Patriots since 1998.
Wow.
It's been a long time. That was
the Chris Chandler year, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So 1998 was the last time that they beat the Patriots. Like I said, 6-game losing streak. It's just out of those 6, half home, half away. So look, this seems to be a franchise that has our number. I don't see it changing here. That is probably going to end up being a 7-game losing streak at that point. So the Falcons, to me, after what is that, 8 games, you're looking at 6-2.
We're 6-2 right now in Jeff's world. But guess what we get to do after that, Jeff? We're on the East Coast. We're in Boston. So maybe we pack our bags right from there, head straight to Germany after the game in Boston. And we have Indianapolis in Germany, neutral field. Falcons have marketing rights there. Hopefully they play to that advantage and really get the crowd going for us. How do you feel about the Falcons in Germany against the Colts?
Do we even know who the Colts are? Because I mean, I'll be honest with you, Anthony Richardson doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
I mean, he might be one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL.
It might be Daniel Jones playing.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Yes, he's got a big arm. I get all of that. He might be a great kid, but he might be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. I know people try to, on both sides, we're really up in arms, really try to downplay it. I've just never seen a quarterback walk off the field on 3rd down and be like, nah, fuck it, I'm done. Right? Mm-hmm. I don't care how many times you've been sacked. Shit, I mean, we talked about David Carr on the last episode. Like, that dude got brutalized during his time with the Texans, and he never walked off the field. With a game, I get it, fourth quarter, I understand all of that. But for me, this is more not even about going to Germany. This is about playing, a really bad football team in the Colts. The Colts may be a team next year picking in the top 5, right? The Colts will end up being who everybody thinks the Falcons are going to be, and they may end up picking 3rd overall, right? Like, it's going to be a really bbad football team. So for that reason, I think they rebound after losing to the Patriots, and I think they do beat the Colts there to move to 7-2 on the year.
Okay. Now, check this out. This is where scheduling obviously doesn't work for us because we don't have a bye week here. And someone in the chat, AJ Evans, is I don't get choosing a bye week between 2 non-divisional games. I don't get not choosing a bye week after Europe, but it might not have been our choice. I think this was a slap. Honestly, I think this was a slap on the wrist for the Ulbrich incident because it just doesn't make sense.
Teams don't get to say, hey, we want a bye week here. These are all assigned by the NFL schedule maker. So the teams have nothing to do with this. No team gets to say, hey, by the way, because if you did, I mean, there have been years where teams have had week 2 or week 3 bye weeks. Like, no team is choosing to play 14 straight games, right? So this is not a team choice. If every team had it their way, they would have a bye week between week 8 and 9 because you're halfway through the season at that point, right? So teams don't get to choose this. And trust me, I get it. Having a bye week after week 4 sucks, right? Because that's 13 weeks, including a European trip that you've got to go on. Guys are already exhausted by the time they get to week 10 anyway, and their bodies are already, basically trashed for the year. But I think being at home, guys being able to at least go through their normal home routines, being able to sleep in their own beds, be with their own families for a couple of days. Like, it'll be really interesting to see how Raheem plays that as far as, like, do they get an additional day off? Do they keep it the same? Like, what does that look like for this franchise after having to spend 22 hours on a plane in 4 days? But I do like the fact that, again, it will be the dog shit team of the NFC South and the Carolina Panthers at home. At least you're not on the road a second week. So for me, I do like that. I like the fact, again, I don't think Carolina is going to be very good. Even though I think they had a good draft, and we talked about that during our draft episode. But again, for me, Carolina, again, if both teams are healthy, the Falcons will sweep the Panthers this year.
Jeff, and look at this, week 9 to 16. Okay, that's 8 games. The Falcons are home 2 times. One against the Carolina Panthers now, coming off Germany, and one that's against Seattle in week 14. So in that 8-game stretch, we have 6 on the road, 1 including Germany. We got freaking smacked on the schedule towards the end. So we'll keep going. Hopefully, I'm not sure what the heck happened there, but yeah, we're definitely feels like the schedule makers are not doing us any favors. So we got to really rise up above that. No pun intended. Week 12, Jeff, at New Orleans. Okay, here's what I don't like about the game. Not only are the Saints coming off a bye, but also they're coming off a Thursday night. So that's an extra 3 days on top of their bye. We're already probably exhausted. This feels like a trap to me. I don't care if it's Shuck, Rattler, whatever. They're giving us a run for our money. We are not going to just go in there and, have our way with them.
Oh, it'll be Taysom Hill, right? The Falcons are going to come into this game essentially having played, 8 straight weeks, a shit ton of traveling. And they're going to throw Taysom Hill back there at quarterback. Like that will end up being the guy they have. And so, yeah, for that reason, I know people are going to hate this. I think this is a division game that the Falcons unfortunately lose for all the reasons that you just said.
It's just too much.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if they had gotten a bye week after week 10, I guess technically it's after week 10 after the Colts before the Panthers, I may feel a little bit different. But at that point, you've been playing for 2 straight months. Guys are exhausted. You've had a shit ton of travel. You're talking tens of thousands of miles. You're kicking off at 3:25 local time there in New Orleans. So that crowd has had all day to drink. It does not feel good sitting here, and we're 6 months out, and it doesn't feel good.
Yep. Don't love that at all. No matter who's starting for the Saints.
Yep.
Next week, Jeff, travel doesn't stop. We're rolling at New York Jets. So we're going to have to play Justin Fields, Aaron Glenn. Hopefully after maybe losing to the Saints, we get a nice bounce back win here against Jeff Ulbricht's former team.
There's a lot of issues with the Jets. I at some point I think the Falcons are they're gonna lose back to back games, and I think it's the two on the road. Week 13, maybe you start to get your legs back under you, start to kind of get that second wind again. But again, just you're back to back. This is 3 out of 4 weeks now you've been on the road. Hell, 4 out of 5 weeks you've been on the road now. It's been a long time going. You got to travel up to New York, which is it's a 2.5 3 hour flight, not that big of a deal. But again, you've been on the road for 4 out of 5 weeks now. You don't get the days off that you want. You don't get to relax like you want to because you're on the road, so your weeks look a little bit different. And so for me, I think this is the time this year that the Falcons lose back-to-back games. So again, through week 13, 12 games, I think the Falcons are 8-4 after that. I think is what it is.
Yep. We're at 8-4 now. We're at 8-4 now. Now we're coming off back-to-back losses, Jeff. We play Seattle, and let's get a little reminder of what happened against Seattle last year. They, quite frankly, gave us probably one of our worst losses of the year. And obviously we got killed by Denver too, and the Vikings. But I called the Seattle one the worst loss because I think Kirk was fully healthy for that game, but yet they just feel like that was the first time where I'm like, oh, we have some serious flaws. We should have absolutely won this game. And on top of it, now they have the QB, Sam Darnold, who carved us up with the Vikings. But obviously Seattle has a worse offensive line, so they're not going to be able to protect Darnold the way the Vikings did. And also, they're traveling from west to east. We're going to finally be at home. How do you feel about this one coming off back-to-back potential losses?
So I think after back-to-back losses, I think something snaps, right? I think there's a heart-to-heart. Things aren't going to be all that bad. I think what people don't realize, though, that are listening and maybe upset at the fact that I've got them losing back-to-back to two really bad teams, I think people forget how young this football team is, right? Like, this isn't a team that's got, 3, 4, 5-year-old vets. This is a team that's going to have rookies and second-year players at some of the biggest positions on both sides of the ball. And especially those rookies, they're going to hit that rookie wall. It happens to everybody. And so I think you'll see a good bounce back here. You look at weeks 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. I don't think they lose a game the final 5 games of the year. I really do think that this is a team that ends up 13-4 on a really good run, and I think they head into the playoffs in a really, really good spot.
Awesome. Now we're 9-4, Jeff. Here's a big one. This could potentially be for the division. Thursday night football. We're both Tampa and Atlanta are going to have the same amount of rest. We're coming off a short week, but this time, last year we had a Thursday night where the Bucks needed to travel to us. Now we're traveling to Tampa Bay for a similar situation. For a potential battle of the NFC South, Jeff, how do you think we're going to fare in Week 15?
I think the Falcons go 5-1 in the division next year. I think this is the second straight year. I haven't looked beyond that. Obviously, I know we did it here in 2024. I think they sweep the Bucks in 2025. It's just one of those things where they potentially just have the Bucks number, right? Like, there are just sometimes where teams match up and the matchups just favor one team. Like we've seen with the Patriots. And shout out to Corbin Miles for listening. He talked about how the Patriots, we 7 straight only because they had Tom Brady. It wasn't only because of Tom Brady. I promise you that. And several of those matchups, Matt Ryan outplayed Tom Brady. So it really wasn't all about Tom Brady. But I just think it's a bad matchup for Tampa. So again, week 15, that's a win and a sweep for the Falcons.
I still remember that game. I think it was in 2009 where we were playing the Pats, Matt Ryan's second year, and Joey Galloway caught a long touchdown on us. That, I don't know why that play scarred me, but anyways, I'm digressing. That play really pissed me off for whatever reason. Maybe because he was with Tampa, and I'm like, oh great, we just can't get away from this guy. But okay, now Jeff, we get a little bit more rest because we're coming off Thursday night, 3 more days to rest. But we need to travel once again to the West Coast. Now we go to Arizona to take on Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner. How do you feel about this one?
Uh, yeah, I mean, again, Arizona's trash. I'm not a big fan of Kyler Murray. Look, I know he's the greatest high school quarterback of all time in the state of Texas. I've just not been impressed with his NFL career, and that's not going to change this year. That team is not very good. They're not well coached. They have a lot of issues top to bottom. And so for me, hell, if I'm off, I may go out to Arizona. My aunt literally lives about 4 minutes away from the stadium, so I got a bed to stay in. So I may go out there for that one. It'd be a fun game to kind of go out to go out and see. But yeah, I think the Falcons show up. I think they show up big in that one. I could see that being the biggest win of the year as far as point differential.
Maybe we do a live show that week, Jeff, since I'm close by Arizona.
I mean, what, 6 hour drive, 6.5 hour drive?
I'll hop on a flight
From Glendale to Glendale.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Okay. How about this, Jeff? Week 17, Battle of the Draft Pick, Monday Night Football. We're playing the Rams. Now you have Raheem Morris, obviously, who used to coach there. We obviously had the draft day trade, but also Stafford, Georgia kid, making his reappearance in his in the state where he played college football. How do you feel about this one? Do you think we can potentially hurt the Rams? I mean, at this point, if it goes the way you said, we're making playoffs, so the Rams fans are pissed anyways. Do we put an extra emphasis on how pissed off they really are at us?
No, and you know what? It wouldn't shock me to see Stetson Bennett play this game. Matt Stafford. And the reason I say that is, Matt Stafford was on Bussin' with the Boys recently and talked about how his arm is not what it used to be, right? I mean, this is going to be, year 15 or 16 for him, which is absolutely asinine to think that he's been in the NFL that long. It just shows how old I am. But he has a problem staying healthy, right? And so then you go to the backup quarterback, and he's out here, he's back home in Georgia, where he led the Dogs to back-to-back national titles. And it's going to be a really rude homecoming for him. I don't think the Rams will be worse than the Falcons are this year. I don't know why everybody's in love with them. I don't know why. I get it. Everybody loves Matt Stafford. He's a good guy. I get all of that. I just don't understand the love of Stafford. So for me, I don't even know that he makes it to week 17, to be honest with you. But regardless, the Falcons at that point are 12-4, and they're rolling.
All right. I like it. Last game of the season, Jeff. We get the Saints coming home. At least we get to stay home this time. And the only disadvantage is we're coming off Monday Night Football. But maybe this game doesn't even matter. We're sitting at 12-4. Do the Saints potentially sweep us, even though maybe we don't try in this last game? Or do you think we take this one?
No. The great thing that I love about having the Saints here in week 18 is even if the Falcons have everything wrapped up and they're in, you're not sitting guys against the Saints. If you want to see this fan base, if they are 12-4, if I'm right and they're 12-4 heading into week 18, okay, and then Raheem Morris decides he's going to sit starters against the Saints, they will run his ass out of this town faster than Sherman left here. Okay, like they will blow some shit up here if he decides to sit starters versus the Saints. If this was the Rams, different conversation to have. This is the fucking Saints. You are not sitting. I don't give a damn about what happens the week after that. You are not sitting your starters versus the Saints. The Saints will have the Falcons' full attention for that reason. We will run their asses out of Mercedes-Benz. And by the way, looking at this schedule, this will be the first time since weeks 4 and 5 that the Falcons will have had back-to-back home games.
I like that.
3.5 months they will go without having back-to-back home games. Meanwhile, the only time they don't have back-to-back road games, week 7. That's it.
We got Jeff. If we don't get on top of the early schedule, not to say that it's easy by any means, this stretch, week 9 through 16, has me really nervous. I mean, eight games is not like in those six road games and one international game. and only 2 home games in that stretch, that makes me a little nervous about this season.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this, and you're the away team for the Colts, but this is the year, this is the odd year, so you have the 9 away games, right, instead of 9 home games. So you've got 4 of them. There's 4 sets of them that are back to back. That's brutal.
Yeah.
And just absolutely brutal. You don't like welcome to the NFL, rookies. Like this is a schedule, and people can talk about how easy it is. And by the way, I always hate that. Well, based off of what happened last year, the Falcons will have the 5th easiest schedule. Motherfucker, nothing stays the same as last year. That's why 60% of, or 60 or 67% of the teams that made the playoffs the previous year in the NFL don't make it back, because teams change. So I always hate when they go, well, based upon last year, they have the 5th easiest schedule. Okay, but what does last year have to do with this? Look at Seattle. Seattle's not the same team they were last year.
Yeah.
They don't even have the same damn quarterback, right? I mean, same thing with the Vikings. They don't have this, like, there's a lot of change that happens in the NFL. Look at the 49ers. They are not the same team they were last year. So, like, miss me with how easy or hard you think the Falcons is going to be based upon what happened in 2024. Because you know what? As I talked about earlier, the Commanders may be absolute shit this year. They were really good last year. They may be absolute shit this year. But to base the Falcons' schedule off of how easy or hard you think a team, or how good or bad you think a team is going to be, based upon what happened last year, right? Because I get it. We're prognosticating how good or bad we think a team is going to be. But my prediction this year has nothing to do with how well or how bad a team was last year, right? It's based upon what they've done since the end of the year to get better or to get worse, which is everything that I've addressed as we've gone week to week. So, for me, when I look at the schedule, they did. Yes, we've got 5, potentially 6 primetime games. It's phenomenal. The Falcons deserve to be on primetime football again. But having 4 sets of back-to-back away games and having 3.5 months in between your back-to-back home games is absolutely fucking brutal.
You said it really well, Jeff. And I hate the 4 sets of back-to-back road games. But one positive note from this: when you have a young team traveling like this, and let's say they find success in their first back-to-back road slot, right? At Mini, at Carolina. And that's probably going to be the easiest one of the 4 clusters that we have, right? That's just going to set up their mentality like, hey, like, we can do this on the road. And let's say, you predicted them at 13-4, right? Let's say it doesn't really swing that way. Let's say we go down to like 10-7, where we win the division. However, in the next rounds, we're going to be on the road. That's going to bode well for us. So if we end up being a playoff team in 2025, which I'm pretty damn sure, despite the schedule, we will be, getting those road wins and that experience playing on the road is going to be key for the playoff success.
100%. I completely agree with you there. I think the other component to this is the NFL did this team no justice with these away games, right? Like you talked about, but you've got to go to Arizona, you got to go to California, you got to go to Berlin, you've got to go to Minnesota, you've got to go to New York. Like you're not just taking some away games. Like your away games are away games. Right, like this isn't a 2-hour flight to Dallas or an hour, or an hour flight up to Nashville. Yeah, it's a 45-minute flight up to Charlotte, which is great. But like you're taking having to go up to Boston again, another 3-hour flight. Like these are not easy road trips to make. And I get it, it's probably a little bit easier in the flights in the planes that these guys take. But they are doing some extensive flying, and I would be shocked if anybody had to fly more than the Falcons do this year, just because of the length of the road trips and how far they actually have to go for some of these.
Sometimes, Jeff, the young players like the road games. Like playing Sunday Night Football, we got up against the Commanders, and let's not kid ourselves. The Commanders were the team that went to the conference championship game. We played, we were neck and neck with them, and they needed that game just as bad as we did. So let's not fool ourselves. We're good at playing on the road. And I'm going to read you the list of the starting road quarterbacks: J.J. McCarthy, Bryce Young, Drake May, Anthony Richardson, Tyler Shuck, Justin Fields, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. Give me Michael Penix over all of them.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you bring up an excellent point there for sure. I mean, hell, you could even extend that out. I mean, when you look at everybody overall, other than, and this is going to upset some people, which is fine, but other than Stafford, Baker, and Allen, I would even with Jaden Daniels, I would still take Michael Penix. Right? I mean, he's going to be better than just about everybody he faces, other than, like I said, was that Allen? And I get it, people may not like that. I love Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry, I do. I love the bravado. I love the brass. He's come into it here in what is this, year 7 or 8 for him? Like, I love. If there's a non-Falcons player I really enjoy watching play, it's Baker Mayfield, because that dude leaves it on the field every single Sunday. And so, I may fangirl over him a little bit. It doesn't mean I want him to win when he's playing the Falcons, but I am a big fan of Baker Mayfield because of how he plays and how he carries himself. But other than that, Penix will be the better quarterback in all but 4 of those games. So, like, you have to like where you're at if you're the Falcons. You have to like all of the other non home and away scenarios. You have to like where you're at with the schedule. You have to like where you're at with the matchups. If Brick can get this defense to have any sort of a pulse, just give something, this team is going to be really fucking good.
If we didn't have a stellar draft class like we did, I'd be really nervous. And now
Agreed.
Brick has something to prove too. He's got a chip on his shoulder too now, because if we come out flat, I'm pretty sure Arthur Blank doesn't like just handing over 500 grand or whatever it was to the NFL for shits and giggles. He's probably looking at Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris saying, like, well, why the heck is this guy even in here? Like, well, why would he leak the number, leave his iPad? Like, who the hell is this guy, right? Like, Ulbricht's on the shortest of short leashes. Like, he could even be gone like, Blank's not going to hesitate to axe him. So, this defense, I expect this to be a masterpiece of Ulbricht's.
Oh, 100%. I can't say 100%. I agree. I hope it is. You talked about it last week or the week before that, this is probably given, all the shit that's happened and how his tenure in New York ended. This may be his last opportunity to show the NFL that he can be a head coach and that he can be an upper echelon DC. So, the talent's there, and if they can stay healthy, and again, that's a big part of this, right? Health is going to matter. If they can stay healthy and he can get something out of this defense, this team is going to be really good.
Absolutely. And you know what's good about playing Tampa week 1, Jeff? This is I believe, the second offensive coordinator that Baker Mayfield lost in back-to-back years. So he obviously lost, actually, maybe his third. I don't know if he played under Leftwich, then Canales, and now Liam Cohen. So Tampa, under their third offensive or fourth offensive coordinator in 4 years, like, maybe it's going to take time for Baker to adjust, the offense to adjust to that new scheme.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. And when you look at a lot of the changes across the NFL with some of these teams, it's the same thing. So I think when you look at you look at the Falcons, having your offensive coordinator here for year 2, for your young offense, your young quarterback means a lot. And that will lend itself as they get ready for week 1, because there's obviously a great familiarity, and it's something that the Falcons will hopefully use to their advantage.
Yeah, and again, we in previous episodes we called this the fuck you year. The NFL gave us the finger. Now we got to give it right back to them with this schedule.
Oh, 100%. I absolutely agree. And by the way, no, Baker Mayfield did not play Byron Leftwich's last year with Bucks. Tom Brady was still the quarterback.
Got it. Okay, so when Mayfield came in, then it was probably Canales who got
Correct.
the Carolina
Canales.
job.
Yep.
Then Cohen, who got the Jacksonville job. I don't know who the new OC is right now, but I mean, Baker's just getting people hired, man. Good for him.
Good for him. Josh Grizzard is their new OC.
Okay.
Another young guy. I mean, he's 35 years old.
Yeah.
So he's a young guy, but he worked under Mike McDaniel down there for the Dolphins, yeah. So it'll be he was a passing game coordinator last year. So he's got some familiarity with Tampa. He was the passing game coordinator last year for Tampa. Then he was the offensive quality control coach as well as wide receivers coach for the Dolphins and had been there since 2017. So another young guy, but a guy that's got a little bit of familiarity with them. So we'll see what kind of tweaks he does to their offense for Baker. But again, I like the familiarity that this offense has. And again, if Ulbrich can get this defense to go, pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, there should be some fun shit going on.
Yeah, I'm going to address one question in the chat. AJ Evans, what is the deal with playing Minnesota in back-to-back years? Actually, this is the third year in a row where we're playing Minnesota because we had that famous Ritter versus Dobbs game, I believe, where Dobbs just carved us up. We should have won that game easily. But and then obviously last year where Darnold crushed us too. We haven't beat Minnesota in a while. I think we're maybe like we have one win in the past 5 appearances. But the way the schedule works is if you finish in the same position in your division as another team in the same conference, so if Falcons finish second and Minnesota finishes second, you're guaranteed to play them as long as you're in the same conference. So what happened 3 years ago is we were playing the NFC North division. Last year, we didn't play Green Bay, Chicago, whatever, right? But Minnesota and Atlanta finished in the same slot. This year, again, we finished in the same slot. That's why we're playing each other. And actually, I think next year, funny enough, we're probably going to up to play the NFC North. So regardless of what happens this year in position, we're going to have Minnesota 4 years in a row. So they're almost like a pseudo division rival for us.
Yeah, and God, I'm tired of playing them. If I'm just being, I'm tired of playing them. It just, I don't know. It just seems to be one of those games that is just, it's just not. I don't know. It's one of those where I wish there was somebody else. We would like give us somebody else, right? Like it's just I'm done with it. I mean, you look at over the last 10 years. So going back to 2015, this will be the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th time they've played in 10 years. Yeah,
we're in lockstep.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And yeah, I'm over it. I'm tired of it. In that time frame, the Falcons are what 0-1, 0-2, 1-2, 2-2, 2-3, 2-4 in the last 6 versus the Vikings.
Yeah, it hasn't really ended up well for us in I remember early in Matt Ryan's career, we had their number quite a bit, but towards the end, that's when they started having our numbers. So we'll see. Hopefully this is a nice change for us. Jeff, what would be hilarious though, and I know we have a hard stop, guys, at 9 Eastern, so I'm going to cut off hard there, but what would be interesting is if JJ McCarthy can't go and somehow Kirk Cousins gets traded to Minnesota. How cool would that be if we get Cousins versus Atlanta on prime time? I don't think you want to see that, but it's entertaining.
That would be the football gods having some fun, right? Like that would be, whatever the football god looks like, whatever that deity looks like, that dude's up there just chilling. It's like, how can I make this a little bit more entertaining for everybody? Because that would be his, the ultimate irony. I think it would be great. For the biggest reason though, is because what's his name is Sunday Night Football. Whatever his name is, the Vikings fan. Mike.
Mike Florio, your favorite person.
Yeah, fuck that dude. Florio would have to eat so many words if Cousins went back to the Vikings. Having to watch him write something positive about Kirk Cousins after just roasting him for a year and the Falcons. Oh, that to me would be worth that trade and that scenario altogether.
Yeah, that would be something, man. But do you think
let me ask you a question though, right?
Yeah.
Because you asked me. Let me ask. When you look at the schedule, what's the one game on that schedule that you're excited about?
Buffalo, Monday Night Football. I want to see where we stack up against an elite quarterback.
Okay.
What about you?
I mean, for me, it's to me, it's always going to be Saints games. I just fuck the Saints. But no, I mean, I actually that Jaden Daniels game, that the game against the Commanders, I'm excited just because it's two of the young best quarterbacks in the NFL,
Yeah.
and how can you not be excited about watching it? But I mean, that would go the same way with Josh Allen, right? Again, one of the best in the NFL. But to watch those two young guys battle, because that could be a rivalry for years to come. Both of them same draft class. If we're somehow able to take one from the Commanders, now all of a sudden they're 1-1 versus each other, like that just to me sets up 10 years worth of dramatic and amazing games to be able to watch. So those, I think there's a couple of them, non Saints games. For me, it's going to be the Commanders, but I agree with you there on Monday Night Football. It'll be great for this team to be able to be on national TV and hopefully show out.
Josh Allen's a draw, man. I mean, that just having him in the building is just going to get the Mercedes-Benz electric. People are going to go crazy for it. I mean, I still watching that KC game, and obviously we were coming off a high with the Philly win right before, so I was really pumped up to see where we were. But yeah, I mean, that would be a big statement win if we get Josh Allen in the dome. And again, like, when you put these outside, like, mobile, strong arm quarterbacks in a dome, it just becomes electric, man. Like, there's really nothing like it.
Agreed. When fans decide they want to show up and have their ass in seats, Atlanta's a great place to be. But the problem is people don't like to, just miss me with the arguments about how there's a lot of other places to be in Mercedes-Benz. But the fact is, you pay for a fucking seat. You should have your ass in that seat at kickoff, ready to go. And the team should not have to take the field with half empty seats because you want to go walk around a bar and talk to your buddies. Take your happy asses to your seats, be there on time, be ready to go.
I love it. One other game that I'm really pumped up for too. I mean, maybe because I'm an LA native, I really want to kick the Rams' ass, especially because that game could have draft pick implications. So I would love to get that win. Raw gets a win over his former team. I think that would be a nice way to get, like, to start that playoff run.
That will be a game that will have a lot of storylines heading up into it because of all the things you talked about, and we'll see how the season unfolds. But there's definitely a lot riding on that game, both from guys inside each locker room to what happens, what transpires, March of 20 or April 2026.
Yeah. All right. So, I think that wraps us up. Well, hopefully Sweet. You all have fun looking through the schedule, deciding if there's any games you want to go to. Don't sell your tickets. If you guys are season ticket holders, hold on to them. We need all the support. Be in your seats 1 p.m. Eastern or whenever the games are or whatever, bright and early. Let's freaking represent. This is going to be an exciting season. Appreciate all you guys. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, comment. We're on YouTube and Spotify. Really appreciate you guys. We'll be back Friday, 5:15 Eastern time. We'll be live again for our normal episode. Really appreciate all your guys' support.